She made a wrong call at 3 a.m., but when the billionaire showed up, she whispered, "Please, don't go." 1 week before her wedding, her fiancé disappeared, no explanation, just a cold message, "I can't do this." In the middle of the night, crying, she tried to call her sister, but dialed the wrong number. A stranger answered, calm voice, steady eyes. 1 hour later, he was at her door. And when she should have told him to leave, she simply said, "Please, don't go." Before we continue, if you enjoy touching and inspiring stories like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Now, let's get back to the story. The call wasn't supposed to happen, not at 3:04 a.m., not to him, and certainly not from her. But Payne doesn't care about time zones or mistakes. Haley sat curled on the edge of her bed, arms wrapped around her knees, like they were the only thing holding her together. The soft cream silk of her robe was damp at the shoulder from silent tears, and the bouquet of ivory roses on the dresser looked like a cruel joke, the same flowers she had chosen for the wedding aisle. The wedding that wouldn't happen. 7 days. That's all that was left before she'd walk down that aisle. And he, Evan, would have been waiting. They'd picked the venue together, tasted cakes, argued over seating charts, even danced in the living room when their song randomly came on the radio. It felt like a forever kind of love. Until a single message broke it all. "I'm sorry, I can't do this." That was it. No call, no visit, not even a clue, just a cold final message that left her in pieces. Her sister Tessa had always said Evan was too smooth, too polished, but Haley thought he was just mature, safe, reliable. She was wrong. The night had dragged on. Shadows stretched across the walls, and the silence in her apartment grew so loud. It felt like it was pressing on her chest. She picked up her phone, hands trembling, breath shallow. She needed to hear Tessa's voice, to cry, to vent, to not be alone. But what came out was a fumble. Her thumb brushed the wrong contact, maybe an old one, maybe just the wrong tap in the dark. She never noticed. All she knew was that it was ringing. 1 beep, 2. She wiped her eyes, clearing her throat. Then a man answered. His voice was low, calm and steady, like warm water over cracked porcelain. "Hello?" Haley froze. "Tessa?" she whispered, confused. "No, I think you dialed the wrong number," he said. His tone gentle. "You okay?" That broke something. A stranger's question, so kind, so unexpected, felt like someone reaching into the silence and pulling her back. She laughed, a hollow, tear-soaked laugh. "No," she whispered, "not even close." There was a pause, not the awkward kind, the thoughtful kind. "Do you want to talk?" he asked. She should have said no, but her heart ached. Her lungs felt tight. And that voice didn't feel like a stranger anymore. "I don't know why I'm telling you this," she began, wiping at her face. "But I was supposed to get married next week." The man on the line stayed quiet, not interrupting, just listening. He left, no warning, just a message. "That's all I got." Her voice cracked again. "And now I'm sitting here, surrounded by flowers that don't mean anything anymore." "Flowers still mean something," he said softly, "even if they're not for a wedding." Haley looked toward the bouquet, her chest rising slowly. "You don't even know me." "I don't have to," he replied. "Payne sounds the same in everyone's voice." That's when she asked his name. He hesitated, just for a second. "Ryan." "Haley," she said, almost shyly. "Hi, Haley." He said her name like it mattered, like it was a fragile thing worth holding with care. For the next hour, they just talked. About nothing and everything. Her dog, Max, who had passed away 2 years ago, the bookstore she loved down the street, how she used to dream of owning a flower shop, because flowers didn't lie. They just bloomed and withered. No promises, no false hopes. Ryan didn't speak much about himself. But she could tell he was used to hiding, to carrying his own weight in silence. He had one of those voices, the kind that made you feel safe, even when the world was upside down. Then, without saying why, he asked, "Where do you live, Haley?" She hesitated, heart thudding in her chest. But something told her he wasn't asking to judge or pry. He was asking because he cared. Midtown, West 46th. "Stay where you are," he said quietly. "Just stay by the door." And the line went dead. She stared at the phone, blinking. What just happened? Part of her brain screamed, "You don't know this man," but her heart, her gut, it felt different. Like whatever was coming wasn't danger, it was something else. She walked slowly to the door, barefoot, heart racing. Maybe it was crazy, maybe she was losing it. Then the knock came, soft, measured, not rushed or loud, just certain. She opened it, and there he was. Ryan, tall, broad shoulders, wearing a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled and 2 buttons undone. His dark hair looked like it had been pushed back hastily, and his eyes, a piercing blue-gray, scanned hers with quiet intensity. He didn't speak. He didn't need to, because in that one look Haley saw everything. He understood. He didn't need the full story to stand beside her in it. "Hi," he said gently. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Tears threatened again. She should have told him to go. She should have stepped back, shut the door, gone back to crying in silence. But instead, her voice came out small, cracked, and full of something she couldn't name. "Please, don't go." Ryan nodded once and stepped inside. Who was Ryan, really? And why did he come? What happens when 2 broken strangers meet by accident? Or was it fate? Haley didn't know where to place her hands. Ryan stood just inside the doorway, as if he'd crossed more than a city to get there, as if he'd stepped through the invisible space between 2 people who shouldn't have met, but somehow had to. He didn't move further. He didn't speak. He just waited. She glanced around her apartment, suddenly aware of how fragile everything looked. The dim light from the kitchen, the unwashed teacup on the table, the crumpled tissue still clutched in her hand. I wasn't expecting anyone," she said softly. "I figured." His voice was calm, the same steady rhythm she remembered from the call. "You don't have to say anything. I just didn't want you to be alone." That almost made her cry again, but not from pain, from the strange, overwhelming feeling of being seen by someone who had no reason to care. Haley stepped back and motioned gently. "Do you want to sit?" Ryan nodded and walked in slowly, like he didn't want to disturb the quiet grief that lingered in the air. He took a seat at the edge of the couch, posture relaxed, hands resting on his knees. She sat across from him, legs folded under her on the armchair. The silence between them wasn't heavy, just tentative, like 2 souls figuring out what to do with each other. "How did you know I wasn't dangerous?" she asked, a hint of a smile trying to form. "I didn't," he said, "but your voice didn't sound like someone trying to trick anyone. It sounded like someone who just needed someone to stay." She looked down, blinking hard. "Thank you for coming." Ryan gave a small nod. "You don't have to thank me. I've had nights like this too." That caught her attention. She studied him for a second, the quiet tension in his shoulders, the way he kept his fingers gently laced like he was holding something inside. "What happened to you?" she asked. His lips pressed into a faint line, and his eyes drifted toward the floor. "A long time ago," he said. "I let someone down, someone I shouldn't have." There was weight in that sentence, a truth too raw to unwrap just yet, so she didn't push. "Do you always answer unknown numbers at 3 a.m.? she asked, trying to lighten the air. He smiled slightly, the kind of smile that looked like it hadn't been used in a while. "Only when I can't sleep." She exhaled slowly, rubbing her arms. "I feel like I'm in some kind of dream, a weird, soft nightmare." Ryan looked around the room. "You've got good taste in flowers. Even if they're not for a wedding anymore." Her chest tightened. She swallowed, tried to laugh, but it came out broken. "I picked them, Because my mom had roses like these on her dresser when I was a kid. I wanted something that felt like home. He nodded slowly. I think you still have that. They sat in silence again. But this time it felt easier, more like breathing. Then Haley asked the question that had been quietly knocking on her heart since he walked in. Why did you really come, Ryan? You could have just hung up. He didn't answer right away. I've spent a lot of nights alone, he finally said, more than I'd admit. I don't usually talk to people. I don't open doors. I don't show up at strangers' places in the middle of the night. But something in your voice, he trailed off. It reminded me what it's like to care. And I didn't want to forget that. The raw honesty in his words made her feel seen in a way she hadn't in months, maybe even years. Evan had loved her, sure, but never like this. Never in this quiet, steady, soul-level way that Ryan had somehow managed in a single night. You didn't even ask my last name, she said. You didn't ask mine either. Haley tilted her head. Fair enough. They stayed like that, just two people sitting in the hush of early morning, the outside world feeling 1,000,000 miles away. Then, as the clock on her microwave blinked 4:42 a.m., Ryan stood slowly. I should go, he said, voice low. Her chest tightened again. The silence that followed felt sharp this time. She didn't want him to leave, but she didn't know how to ask him to stay without sounding desperate. Her fingers curled over the edge of her robe. Would it be crazy if I said, I don't want you to? Ryan turned to her, his expression softened. Not crazy, he said, just honest. He stood there for a second longer, eyes searching hers, and then he stepped closer. I could stay for a little while longer, he said. If you need? Haley nodded slowly, tears threatening again. But not from pain this time. She moved to the couch, and he sat beside her. Not too close, just present. The room was silent again, but now it held something different, something warmer. And as she leaned her head gently onto his shoulder, her heart did something she didn't expect. It fluttered. She closed her eyes, not knowing what came next, only that when the sun rose in a few hours, nothing in her life would be the same again. And somewhere behind that stillness, something else waited, something she didn't see. Because outside her window, parked across the street, someone was watching. The light outside was barely starting to shift from deep blue to gray. That moment just before dawn, when night holds on for a little too long, refusing to let go. Haley was still leaning gently against Ryan's shoulder. She hadn't fallen asleep exactly, but her eyes had closed. And for the first time in days, her breathing had softened. She felt human again, not healed, not fixed, but breathing, feeling. That was something. Ryan didn't move. He stayed still, like a statue made of warmth, not offering anything more than presence. And maybe that was what made it feel safe. But inside him, things were less still. He hadn't meant to come, not really. Something about her voice on the phone had shaken something loose in him, something he thought he'd buried years ago. He hadn't visited this part of the city in ages, not since... His eyes lingered on the apartment walls. Simple, warm, lived in, books stacked beside the TV, a faded coffee mug on the floor that said, "Choose joy," a framed photo of Haley and another girl, probably her sister, laughing in a sunlit field. Ryan hadn't laughed like that in years, maybe never. "Can I ask you something?" Haley's voice pulled him gently back. She hadn't moved her head, just kept it resting where it was, her eyes still closed. "Sure. Do you believe in fate?" Ryan exhaled slowly, gaze drifting up to the ceiling. "I used to, until I learned how many people use it as an excuse for giving up." Haley opened her eyes now, turned her head slightly to look at him. "That's not the same thing, though." "No?" "No. Giving up is a choice. Fate is, I don't know. The thing that interrupts you, makes you stop when you were headed somewhere else." He thought about that, about how he'd been driving aimlessly for hours before her call came in, about how he'd almost ignored the unknown number, about how something he couldn't explain made him answer anyway. Then, maybe this is fate, he said quietly. Haley smiled, but it faded almost as quickly as it came. I don't know what happens next, she said, but I know that yesterday. I felt like my world had stopped, and now it's like I can breathe again. He looked at her, really looked. And just when he opened his mouth to say something, her phone buzzed. She winced, sitting up and reaching for it. The name on the screen made her blood run cold. Evan. She hesitated. Ryan noticed. Do you want me to leave? No, she said quickly. Just let me see what he said. It wasn't a call. Just a message. I know I hurt you. I made a mistake. Can we talk? Haley stared at the screen, heart pounding. A mistake? You don't vanish a week before your wedding and call it a mistake. But still. Her fingers hovered. She hated how fast that little seed of doubt sprouted inside her. He texted, she said. Eyes still on the screen. After all this time. Ryan didn't ask what the message said, he just waited. Haley set the phone down face down and looked at him. Why is it that someone can break you, and you still find yourself waiting for them to come back? Because the heart doesn't have an off switch, Ryan said. And sometimes it wants the wrong things, even when it knows better. She swallowed hard. Do you think people like that deserve second chances? He took a long breath. I think if someone leaves without explanation, they've already shown you how they handle fear, and that's not the kind of person you want beside you when life gets hard. That hit her deeper than she expected. Because that had been Evan, hadn't it? He left when things got real. When commitment wasn't just champagne and invitations, but vows and sacrifice. I don't want to go through that again, she whispered. You won't, Ryan said, not if you start listening to what you really need. They sat quietly again. Tension floating just under the surface now. Haley wanted to ask him more about his past, about the person he'd let down, but something held her back. Instead, she asked, What do you do, Ryan? For work? He hesitated, then shrugged. I run a few businesses, nothing exciting. Haley raised an eyebrow. That sounds vague. He gave her a slight smile. That's intentional. She laughed softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You're mysterious. That's either very attractive or very suspicious. Can't it be both? But even as they joked, she saw something flicker in his eyes. There was something he wasn't saying. And just before she could ask more, there was a knock at the door. She froze. Ryan stood up almost instinctively, his body shifting like he was ready for anything. Are you expecting someone? He asked. She shook her head slowly. Another knock, firmer this time. Haley walked to the door, pulse rising. She glanced through the peephole, but whoever it was had stepped just out of view. Cautiously, she opened the door an inch. There was no one there, just a small white envelope on the ground. She picked it up, heart thudding. There was no name on the outside, just a single word written in delicate black ink. Careful. She turned slowly. Ryan was watching her closely, eyes narrowing at the envelope. What does it say? He asked. Haley looked at the word again. Her hands began to tremble. She handed it to him without a word. Ryan took it, read it once, and the change in his face was immediate. His calm expression hardened. His jaw clenched slightly, like he recognized the handwriting. Haley stared at him. You know something, don't you? Ryan didn't answer right away. He folded the note slowly, then looked up at her, and for the first time that night, his voice lost its calm. I think I made a mistake coming here. Haley's breath caught in her throat. What do you mean, a mistake? She asked, her voice quieter than she intended. Ryan didn't look at her right away. His fingers were still gripping the note like it held more weight than just a single word. He slowly lowered his hand, slipping the folded envelope onto the coffee table. "I shouldn't have come," he said again. But this time it sounded less certain, like he was trying to convince himself. "Ryan?" Haley stepped toward him, searching his face. "If you know something, you need to tell me." He met her eyes, and the softness from earlier had faded. Now there was something guarded there, a flicker of old fear. "I don't know anything for sure," he said, measured. "But whoever left that note, they weren't just warning you." Haley frowned. "Then who?" His silence was louder than any answer. She sank into the armchair, rubbing her temples. "I don't understand. Why would anyone leave a message like that in the middle of the night? And how would they even know you were here?" Ryan stayed standing. His stance had shifted, no longer relaxed but alert, as if some inner switch had flipped. "There are people who pay attention to where I go," he said. "People who don't exactly approve of how I live." That made her sit up straighter. "Wait, what kind of business are you in, Ryan?" He hesitated. Then, finally, he sat down across from her again, leaning forward slightly. "My name's not just Ryan," he said. "It's Ryan Carrington." The name hit her like a drop of ice down her spine. Haley blinked. "As in Carrington Tech?" He nodded once. "You're that Ryan?" Unfortunately. Her mind raced. The name was everywhere. Forbes, tech articles. The occasional viral headline, "Reclusive billionaire? Inherited the company at 27. Built a reputation for being brilliant, detached, and unreachable." And yet, here he was, sitting in her living room, after answering a misdialed phone call at 3 a.m. "I didn't recognize your voice," she whispered. "I don't do interviews. I don't put myself out there." He gave her a look that was both apologetic and tired. "I stopped wanting people to know me a long time ago." Haley shook her head slowly, trying to process it. "But why would someone leave a note like that here? You said people watch you. Who are they?" "Sometimes it's competitors. Sometimes it's people who think they know who I am, or want something from me. I've made enemies, not because I wanted to, just because money attracts the worst kinds of attention." Haley was quiet for a long moment. "So, you really didn't just come here for me, did you?" she asked, the smallest edge in her voice. Ryan's eyes flashed up, hurt, tightening around his expression. "No, Haley. I came because I wanted to, because when I heard your voice on that call, something inside me moved for the first time in years. I didn't even think twice, I just drove." She stared at him, wanting to believe him. Part of her already did. But the world she thought she knew was shifting, and now the stranger she'd let in wasn't just mysterious. He was powerful, connected, maybe even dangerous. "I'm not mad," she said finally, her voice quieter. "I just wish you'd told me sooner." "I didn't want it to change anything." "It already has," she admitted. For a while, neither of them spoke. The envelope sat between them like a landmine, and the silence that had once felt comforting now held weight. Ryan stood again and paced slowly toward the window. He pulled the curtain slightly to the side and scanned the street below, empty. Still, his shoulders remained tense. "You said you let someone down once," Haley said softly. "Was it connected to all this?" He didn't answer right away. Then, "Her name was Claire?" Haley leaned in. "We were together a long time ago," Ryan continued. "Before the company, before the money. She was the first person who ever saw me, really saw me. But when things started to change, I got caught up in it, the pressure, the image, the expectations." His jaw tensed. "I didn't push her away directly, but I disappeared into a life she didn't want to be part of. She walked away. I didn't stop her." "And you regret it?" "Every day." Haley nodded slowly. "So maybe this isn't a mistake." "What?" "You being here, me calling you, maybe you needed someone to see you again, and maybe I needed someone who wasn't afraid to show up." Ryan turned toward her, eyes searching. "Eyes?" For a moment, everything softened again. The walls, the weight, the unspoken history. But then another vibration from Haley's phone broke the stillness. She picked it up, hesitating. Another text from Evan. This one was different. "You're not safe. Please just trust me one last time." Her hand trembled. She showed it to Ryan. He read it, eyes narrowing. "Did you tell him I wasn't here?" "No," she said, confused. "I didn't respond." Ryan turned toward the window again, and that's when he saw it. Across the street, a man in a black coat, standing just barely in the shadow of the alley, not moving, just watching the building. "Someone's out there," he said, voice low. Haley stood quickly, moving beside him. Her pulse was racing now. "What do we do?" she whispered. Ryan turned to her, jaw set. "We don't open the door. We don't turn on any more lights. And you tell me, do you trust me?" She didn't hesitate. "Yes." "Then we leave, now." They moved quickly. Haley grabbed her keys from the bowl by the door, slipping on a hoodie over her silk robe, her heart hammering so loudly she could barely hear herself think. Ryan didn't wait. He moved like someone who had done this before, his voice low and calm as he handed her her phone and shoes. "Put those on. Don't talk unless you have to." She nodded, fingers shaking as she bent to slip them on. In less than 2 minutes, they were out the back stairwell. Haley had lived in that apartment for almost 4 years and had never once used the back door. She didn't even realize how narrow the stairs were, how they creaked beneath their weight. The night air was colder than before, brushing across her cheeks like a slap. They exited into a narrow alley between buildings. Ryan checked over his shoulder once, then again, before taking her hand. "Come on." His grip was firm, not forceful, like a tether holding her to something steady. She didn't know where they were going. She didn't even ask. She just followed. They walked 3 blocks in silence, keeping close to the shadows. Haley's legs were shaking, her heart still pounding in her throat. Finally, Ryan slowed. "There," he said, pointing toward the end of the street. Parked at the curb was a sleek, dark silver BMW, the kind of car that practically whispered money. But it was subtle, not flashy, quiet power. He unlocked it with a tap, and the lights blinked once. Haley slid into the passenger seat, barely breathing. Only when the doors shut and the car started moving did she speak. "What just happened back there?" Ryan glanced at her, jaw tight. "I don't know, but it wasn't random." She hugged her arms. "You think that man outside, he was watching you?" "I think he wasn't there for no reason." "But then why would Evan text me, saying I'm not safe?" Ryan didn't answer right away. "I don't know," he said finally, "but I think it's time I find out." They drove for a while, past quiet neighborhoods, empty sidewalks, rows of sleeping houses with warm light glowing through the windows. It made Haley feel like they were driving through a different world, one where people didn't wake up to warning notes or texts from ghosts of almost weddings. After 15 minutes, they pulled into an underground garage. Haley stared out the window. "This isn't a hotel," she murmured. "No." Ryan cut the engine and turned to her. "It's one of my places. I come here when I don't want to be found." That sentence lingered. He got out first and walked around to open her door. She stepped out slowly, hugging her hoodie tighter around her. An elevator at the far end of the garage opened as he tapped a key card. She stepped in behind him. "You really live like this?" she asked quietly. He pressed the button to the top floor. "No, I exist like this. It's not the same." The ride-up was silent, not uncomfortable, just thoughtful, as if both of them were still catching up to the whirlwind of the past few hours. When the elevator opened, Haley blinked at what she saw. The space was stunning, but not cold. Floor-to-ceiling windows, soft neutral tones, a couch that looked like it had been used more for sleeping than sitting, stacks of books, a guitar in the corner, and on the far table, a vase of flowers. The same kind that sat in her apartment. "Those," she whispered, "I bought them tonight," he said, walking ahead of her. "I don't know why. I just did." She stepped slowly into the room, letting it wash over her. Everything about the place felt like Ryan. Quietly expensive, yet private. Thoughtful, isolated. "Do you always live like a ghost?" she asked gently. He turned, eyes softening. "Only when I'm awake." She stared at him, the way he stood, the way his walls looked like they had been built, brick by brick, over years of silence and survival. "I think you're lonelier than me," she whispered. He looked away at that. They stood in silence for a moment. Then she asked, "Why do you hide so much?" Ryan exhaled and ran a hand through his hair. "Because when people know who you are, they don't see you. They see what they can get, what they can take. And when you finally think someone's different, sometimes they prove they're just better at pretending." Haley took a slow step toward him. Then another. "And what do you see in me?" she asked. He looked up. "You?" He paused, voice gentler. "I see someone who didn't pretend, who wasn't trying to impress, who reached out in pain and still had enough heart left to care about a stranger's voice." Her throat tightened. She didn't realize how close they'd gotten until she could feel his breath on her skin. But before anything could pass between them, her phone buzzed again. Evan. She pulled back just enough to read it. "I shouldn't have left. You deserve the truth. Meet me tomorrow, 4 p.m., 8th and Lexington. Come alone." Ryan saw the change in her face. "What is it?" She handed him the phone. He read it carefully, then handed it back. "You can't go," Haley blinked. "I have to. You don't know what you're walking into. And I can't spend the rest of my life wondering what he meant. I have to hear it, even if it hurts." He didn't argue. Instead, he said something she didn't expect. "Then I'll be nearby." She stared at him. "You don't trust me to do this?" "No," he said, "I don't trust him." And just like that, the line was drawn, not between them, but around her. And for the first time, Haley realized she wasn't alone in this anymore. The next day felt like walking on glass. Haley stood by the window of Ryan's penthouse, watching the morning light spill across the city like nothing had happened. But inside her, a storm had settled. She hadn't slept. Neither had Ryan. They talked in short bursts during the night. Not about Evan, not about the note, but about everything else. Favorite books, the best kind of tea. That time, Haley cried in the back of a taxi because a street violinist played her grandmother's song. Those hours felt stolen. Gentle, like a pocket of warmth wrapped around the chaos. But 4 p.m. was coming, and with it, Evan. She sipped from a steaming mug of mint tea. Ryan had insisted on it, claiming it calmed nerves. It didn't. But it did make her feel like someone was still taking care of her, and that alone mattered more than the taste. Across the room, Ryan typed on his phone, expression unreadable. Haley broke the silence. "You're not going to let me go alone, are you?" "No," he said simply. She smiled faintly. "Didn't think so." He set the phone down and walked over, standing beside her at the window. "You don't owe him anything," Ryan said. "Not even closure." "I know," she whispered, "but I need it anyway." There was a beat of silence. Then Ryan added, "I'll be close. I won't let him touch you." She turned to him, surprised by the heat behind his voice. "You think he's dangerous?" "I don't know what he is. That's the problem." They didn't speak again until it was time to leave. By 3:55 p.m., Haley stood alone at the corner of 8th and Lexington, the city pulsing around her. Everything felt louder today, the honking, the footsteps, the rush of wind between buildings. Her hoodie was zipped up tight, sleeves tugged over her hands. Ryan had dropped her off a block away. 3 minutes, Max," he'd said before she got out. "If anything feels wrong, you walk. Don't look back. I'll be right behind you." Now she waited. Then, at exactly 4 a.m., Evan appeared. He looked different, tired, slightly unshaven. His usual crisp style was undone, shirt wrinkled, hair messy like he hadn't slept either. But his eyes, those same familiar eyes, found hers and froze. He walked toward her slowly. "Hi," he said, stopping just in front of her. Haley's chest tightened. "Why are you doing this now?" Evan looked down, then back up. "Because I lied to you." She stayed still. "I didn't leave because I stopped loving you," he said. "I left because I got a call from someone threatening to ruin everything." Her brow furrowed. "What are you talking about?" "I don't know exactly who it was. But they knew things. About me, about you, about your family. They said if I went through with the wedding, they'd release everything." Haley blinked. "Release what?" He hesitated, his face twisted with guilt. I was involved in something. A deal I thought was clean, but it wasn't. Someone set me up. And whoever it was, they made it clear that if I stayed with you, they'd use you as leverage." Her heart pounded harder. "So you thought disappearing was protection. I thought disappearing was the only way to keep you safe." Haley felt dizzy. All this time, she thought it was cowardice. Betrayal? Cold feet? But now, it sounded like fear. Still a betrayal? But a different kind. "Why didn't you just tell me?" she asked. "Because I knew you'd try to fix it," Evan said, "and I didn't want to pull you into that mess." Haley took a step back, staring at him. "You think leaving me, abandoning everything we had with Dia, was better than trusting me?" "I thought I was protecting you," he repeated. She shook her head. "No, you were protecting yourself from having to be honest. That's not love, Evan. That's fear with a mask on." He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, his eyes flicked to something behind her, and his face changed, pale, terrified. "Haley," he said, his voice sharp. "Get down." She spun instinctively and saw the man from the night before, black coat, shadowed face, standing just behind a bus stop. Only now, he wasn't watching. He was walking toward them, fast. Evan stepped between them. "Run!" But Haley couldn't move. Then, from across the street, another voice cut through the chaos. "Haley!" Ryan. He was already running. She turned just in time to see the man in the coat reach into his jacket. Time slowed. But before anything could happen, tires screeched. A car came between them. The man flinched, turned, and bolted the other way. Ryan reached her seconds later, grabbing her arm. "You okay?" he asked, eyes scanning her quickly. She nodded shakily, still trying to catch her breath. "What the hell just happened?" she managed to say. Evan, panting, stepped closer. "That's the guy. He's the one who called me?" Ryan stared at him. "You saw his face?" "Once," Evan said. "I thought he was bluffing. But now, I don't know." Ryan's jaw tightened. "Then we need to go, all of us." Haley glanced at Evan. She didn't want him near her, not anymore. But whatever this was, it wasn't over. And something told her this was just the beginning. Ryan drove like someone with a mission. The car moved through the streets in near silence, the city blurring past the windows. Haley sat in the front passenger seat, her hand still trembling slightly. Evan was in the back, quiet, not because he didn't have anything to say, but because he seemed to know that nothing he could say right now would change how she looked at him. The space between the three of them felt tight, confused, haunted by everything unsaid. When they reached the underground garage beneath Ryan's building, Haley got out first, not waiting for either of them. She needed air. Even if it was just recycled and stale from the concrete walls around them. Ryan followed close behind. Evan trailed. Slower. The doors shut behind them with a hiss, sealing the outside world away. But the weight didn't lift. Inside the penthouse, no one sat. Haley walked straight to the window, arms crossed tightly around herself. The skyline stretched ahead, beautiful and indifferent. "How long have you been looking over your shoulder?" "Evan?" Ryan asked, breaking the silence. Evan sat down on the edge of the couch, rubbing his temples. "Since about 3 weeks before the wedding." Haley turned around slowly. "That long?" "I got a call one night, no caller ID. The voice told me they knew everything. About my deals, about my finances. About you? She blinked. What about me? Evan hesitated. They said if I didn't walk away from you, they'd make sure your father's job got pulled into it, that your sister would get dragged through court over fake charges. They knew your family, your history, things I'd never even told them. Haley stared at him. Stunned. You should have told me, she whispered. I was scared, Evan said, and ashamed, and I thought disappearing would erase it. Ryan stepped forward now, arms crossed. You don't disappear to protect someone, you disappear to protect yourself. Evan shot him a glare. Not everyone has your resources. No, Ryan said evenly. But everyone has a choice. Haley closed her eyes. It was too much, too fast. Too many truths hidden beneath half-hearted lies. She sank into a chair, her voice barely above a whisper. So now what? We wait for this guy to show up again? Hope he doesn't actually pull a gun next time. No, Ryan said firmly. We don't wait. We pull the thread. Evan looked confused. What thread? Ryan walked to a shelf near the far wall and tapped a black panel. A section of the wall slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a narrow drawer. Inside it, a sleek laptop. Haley watched him with raised eyebrows. You have secret walls now? I have secrets, he said, powering it on. The walls just help. Evan stood skeptical. What are you doing? I've got access to data most people don't. I built tools to protect my own company from this kind of thing. If this guy's working with burner phones, ghost numbers, anything trackable, I'll find him. You think you can trace a guy that showed up in the dark and vanished without a name? Evan asked. Ryan glanced up, eyes calm. Yes. Haley looked between the two men, one with answers, the other with apologies. The contrast was undeniable. Ryan started typing, his fingers moving fast. Code, logs, layers of encrypted software. Haley leaned in, quietly impressed. Did you build this yourself? He didn't look up. Most of it. It took less than 10 minutes before something beeped. Ryan's eyes narrowed. There, he murmured. What? Haley asked, standing. I backtraced your text, he said, the one that said, you're not safe. I masked your signal and bounced it through a few internal filters. Got a return ping. And? The text came from a tower that isn't public. Private line, military-grade shielding. He turned the laptop so they could see. Only one group uses those in this city. Evan stepped forward slowly. Who? Ryan exhaled. Carrington Private Security. Haley froze. Your own company? She asked. He nodded once. A branch I haven't touched in over 2 years. Evan stepped back. So this guy, the one threatening me, he could be one of yours? Ryan's jaw tightened. No, he was, but he shouldn't be now. Haley's heart raced. Who is he, Ryan? Ryan stared at the screen for a long second, then said quietly, Noah Pierce. Evan looked at him. That name means nothing to me, Ryan nodded. It wouldn't. Haley took a step closer. But it means something to you. He used to run ops for us, surveillance, extraction. He was clean, efficient. But then he went too far, used private files to track down a whistleblower, nearly destroyed her life. I fired him, had him blacklisted from every major firm. And he's back now? Haley asked. Eyes wide, Ryan looked at her. He never left. I just didn't see it. Silence fell. Then suddenly, Evan turned toward Haley. This guy, Noah, he never mentioned Ryan. He only ever mentioned you, your name, your family. Haley's pulse jumped. But why me? Ryan's face hardened as he looked back at the screen. I don't think this is about Evan, he said, or even about me anymore. He turned the screen again, showing a satellite map with a blinking red dot hovering just 2 blocks from her old apartment. I think it's about you. Haley stared at the blinking red dot on the screen, her throat tightening. 2 blocks from her old apartment. That wasn't random. That's close, she said quietly. Too close, Ryan replied. It means he's still watching, or waiting. Evan stepped forward, his voice low. Why her? What does he want from Haley? Ryan shook his head slowly, his jaw tight. I don't know yet. But Noah was never the type to act without a motive. If he's targeting her, it's not about you anymore. It's personal. Haley folded her arms across her chest, the weight of everything pressing down again. I'm not anyone special, she said, trying to reason through her own fear. I don't have enemies. I'm a copy editor. I organize bookshelves for fun. I cry during cereal commercials. Why would someone like that come after me? Ryan turned to her. It's not about who you are to the world, he said gently. It's about who you are to someone who matters. She frowned. You think this has to do with you? I think Noah's trying to make a point. To me, Evan, someone. He knows the best way to hurt people like us is through the ones we care about. Haley blinked at him. Do I really count as someone you care about? Ryan looked at her, and the room went quiet. You do, he said softly. Whether I meant for that to happen or not. Her heart jumped. She wasn't ready to unpack that. Not here, not now. But something about the way he said it made her feel steadier, grounded, even in the middle of chaos. But then Evan spoke again. We can't just sit here. We need to go to the police. Ryan didn't even flinch. No. What do you mean, no? Evan snapped. There's a man stalking her, threatening both of us. And the second we hand this over to law enforcement, we lose control, Ryan interrupted, calm but firm. They'll ask questions we're not ready to answer. They'll start digging into things we haven't confirmed. And Noah? He'll vanish. Again. Haley stepped between them. Okay, enough. I don't care about pride or turf. I care about finding out why this man is threatening my life. Ryan softened his voice. And that's exactly why we do this right. Smart, quiet, fast. Haley exhaled, rubbing her temples. She was tired, emotionally wrung out. But there was something about Ryan's calm that kept her upright. Still, one question gnawed at her. What if I was never supposed to call you that night? Ryan blinked, caught off guard. What? She looked at him. I was trying to call Tessa, my sister, but I hit the wrong number. I called you. What if this wasn't fate or chance or whatever we've been calling it? What if Noah planned it? What if I was meant to call you? Ryan's expression changed. Not fear, but something close to realization. He turned back to the laptop, hands flying across the keys. What are you doing? Evan asked. I'm checking her outgoing call logs, Ryan said, scanning the screen. If someone rerouted her call, it would show, even for a second. Haley watched him anxiously. Then he stopped typing. There it was, an invisible reroute, a digital fingerprint. Her call to Tessa had bounced, split, then redirected. A move so subtle no one would notice unless they were looking for it. It wasn't an accident, Ryan whispered. You were pushed. Haley sank into the couch. So, someone wanted me to talk to you? Ryan nodded. Probably to pull you into my world, to make you visible, vulnerable. Evan stepped back, running a hand through his hair. This guy's playing chess with our lives. No, Ryan said, his voice steady. He's trying to trap us, piece by piece. Haley looked up at him. Then what do we do now? Ryan closed the laptop. We flipped the board. It was just past midnight when they drove into the industrial district at the edge of the city. Ryan had received a ping from one of his tracking sweeps, a burner device registered to a name that shouldn't exist. A name once tied to Noah's encrypted files. The building was old, a shell of what had once been a factory, now long abandoned. Haley sat in the car with Evan, watching Ryan approach the building slowly, headphones in, his phone in one hand and a compact scanner in the other. He moved like someone trained. Not in combat, in control. Is this what he does? Evan muttered beside her. I don't know, Haley replied. I don't think he lets people see this side of him. Then, as if on cue, Ryan signaled them with a wave. Haley's breath caught. He motioned for them to come. They stepped into the building carefully, the air thick with dust and old metal. Inside, Ryan stood near a table, dim light from his flashlight casting long shadows. And on the table, a photo of Haley, recent, taken just days before the wedding. Haley stared at it, blood draining from her face. "That's from outside my building," Ryan nodded. "He's been watching you longer than we thought." There was something else beneath the photo, a piece of paper, typed, clean. Haley picked it up, her hand shaking. It read, "She trusted the wrong one. She still does." Ryan stepped closer. "Now that's a message." Evan frowned. "But for who?" Ryan looked between them. Then, his voice low, "Not you." Haley froze. "What?" Ryan pointed to a code scrawled in small text at the bottom corner. She didn't recognize it, but he did. "It's mine," he said. "It's a Carrington encryption key. He's not just threatening us, he's mocking me." Haley's eyes met his, and in that moment, she saw something in Ryan's face she hadn't seen before. Not fear, not anger, resolve. "He wants me to come to him," Ryan said quietly, and Haley, now fully caught in the crosshairs, whispered the only thing she could think, "Then don't go alone." The drive back from the factory was quiet. Noah's message echoed louder than any conversation could. She trusted the wrong one. She still does. Haley sat in the passenger seat, fingers tightly intertwined in her lap. She didn't know what scared her more, that someone had been watching her for weeks, or that Ryan hadn't flinched at the threat. Evan had gone home, or at least, that's what he said. He claimed he needed to disappear for a while, to lay low. Maybe it was guilt, maybe fear. Ryan hadn't stopped him. And now it was just the two of them again. Back at the penthouse, Haley walked straight to the windows. City lights shimmered across the glass like distant stars. So close to life, yet completely out of reach. She didn't realize she was holding her breath until Ryan spoke from behind her. "I don't want you to be afraid of me." She turned slowly. He stood in the soft glow of the kitchen light, sleeves rolled up, shirt untucked. The edges of exhaustion showed around his eyes. But what she noticed most was the way his voice cracked just slightly, like it cost him something to say those words. "I'm not afraid of you," she replied. "I'm afraid for you." He walked toward her, hands in his pockets, like he wasn't sure if he had the right to come closer. "You're in the middle of this because of me," he said. "No," she shook her head. "I'm in the middle of this because someone wanted to hurt someone else, and used me to do it." Her voice softened. "That's not on you, Ryan, not all of it." But he didn't look convinced. "I used to believe I could live a life untouched by people, that if I kept enough distance, if I stayed focused on building and growing and protecting, maybe I wouldn't break anything, or anyone." He paused, eyes locked on hers. "But then you called me." She felt her heart tighten. Ryan stepped closer now, slowly, carefully, like he was walking a path he hadn't dared in years. "And something about your voice, that first night, it reminded me of a version of myself I hadn't heard in a long time. The one that felt things, the one that cared." Haley looked down, blinking fast. "I wasn't supposed to be the one you called," he said, barely above a whisper. "But I've never been more glad for a mistake." She closed the distance. Not all of it, just enough. And when she looked up again, her voice trembled. But her words were clear. "I haven't let anyone hold me in months. Not really, not since Evan left. I told myself I was okay, that I didn't need it, that love was optional, like cake or vacation time." She took a breath. "But when you walked in that night, something in me stopped shaking." Ryan's hand reached out slowly, gently brushing her hair behind her ear. "You stopped shaking in me too," he murmured. Their foreheads nearly touched now, the air between them so still it hurt. And just when it felt like the moment would break. Her phone buzzed. She flinched, pulled away. Ryan stepped back, instantly alert. "Who is it?" She looked down at the screen. Unknown number. A message. "You still don't know what he did, do you?" Her stomach dropped. She showed the screen to Ryan, his jaw clenched. He's playing again. There was another ping, a second message. "Check the file titled Violet. Ask him why he deleted it." Haley's head snapped up. "Do you know what that means?" Ryan didn't answer right away. She stepped forward, more forcefully this time. "Ryan, what is Violet?" He exhaled, a long, slow breath, like something was coming up from somewhere deep, and he wasn't sure if it could see the light. "It was a project," he said. "Back when I first took over the company, classified tech, developed with outside partners. Surveillance algorithms, drone enhancements, things that could be weaponized if they fell into the wrong hands." "And did they?" she asked. He didn't respond. Haley stepped even closer. "Did you delete it?" His voice was barely a whisper now. "No, I buried it." She stared at him. "Why?" Ryan looked at her like he wasn't sure if she'd still be standing after the truth. "Because someone died." The words knocked the air from her lungs. "What?" Ryan walked toward the window, staring out. "There was an internal breach. A junior researcher found out we were being used to supply data to a military contract overseas. She tried to blow the whistle. Her name was Claire." Haley froze. "You told me about her," she said slowly. "The one you let down." Ryan nodded. "She tried to go public, but before she could, she died. Car accident, late at night. It was ruled accidental. But the timing—" He paused, voice thickening. "It didn't feel accidental." Haley's voice cracked. "And you think Noah had something to do with it?" "I know he did," Ryan said. "I just couldn't prove it. And when I tried, every piece of evidence disappeared. That's when I buried Violet. I thought if I destroyed the trail, no one else would get hurt." Haley backed away slowly, overwhelmed. He turned to her. "I didn't want you to know like this, but if he's bringing it up now, it means he's not done." Tears welled in her eyes. Not because she didn't trust him, but because now she was in something far deeper than she'd ever imagined. "Ryan," she whispered, "what if I'm next?" He walked toward her again, but this time he didn't hesitate. He pulled her into his arms, holding her like he might never get another chance. "Then he'll have to go through me first." Ryan didn't sleep that night. He sat at the edge of the couch, elbows on his knees, eyes fixed on the darkness outside. Haley had fallen asleep curled under a blanket, the soft rhythm of her breathing the only thing keeping his mind from spiraling too far. But every time he closed his eyes, he saw Claire's name, and Noah's. "You still don't know what he did, do you?" The message clawed at him, because there was something he hadn't told Haley, something even worse than the buried file. And if Noah was finally bringing Violet back into the light, it meant he wasn't bluffing anymore. He was preparing to end this. The next morning, Haley woke to the smell of fresh coffee. She sat up slowly, rubbing her eyes, the emotional weight of the night before pressing on her like gravity. Ryan stood in the kitchen pouring coffee into 2 mugs, one black, one with oat milk, exactly how she liked it. He'd remembered. She walked toward him. "Morning," she said softly. "Morning," he replied without turning. "You should eat something." "I'm not hungry." "You need to stay strong." There was something different in his voice today. Not cold, but resolved. She walked around the counter, taking the mug from his hand. "What are you planning?" Ryan finally met her gaze. "I'm ending it." Her throat tightened. "How?" He hesitated. "I'm meeting him, alone." Haley shook her head instantly. "No, Ryan, no, that's exactly what he wants." "I know." "Then why give it to him?" "Because if I don't, he won't stop, and I can't let him drag anyone else into this." She slammed the mug down. Coffee sloshing over the rim. "What if he hurts you? What if this is a setup?" "It is," he said simply. "Then why go?" Ryan stepped closer. Because I can't keep hiding behind firewalls and encrypted files while you're out there wondering if someone's watching you again. This ends with me." Her voice cracked. "Heard you were. Don't you dare try to protect me like Evan did. This isn't the same." "Yes, it is," she snapped. "You think disappearing, sacrificing yourself makes you noble? It doesn't. It just leaves people like me behind. I'm confused, broken, wondering what the hell happened." Ryan stared at her, then reached into his pocket. He held out a small black flash drive. "This has everything," he said. "Every version of the Violet file. The original encryption, the altered reports, names, timestamps. It's what Noah's afraid of." Haley hesitated before taking it. "You're giving this to me?" "Yes, because if anything happens to me, I want the truth to survive." Tears filled her eyes. "Don't talk like that," he touched her face gently. "I have to." Then he leaned down, slowly, deliberately, and kissed her. It wasn't a desperate kiss. It was steady, sure, like a man giving his heart away and knowing he might not get it back. When he pulled away, he whispered, "You were the one thing I didn't see coming. And the only thing I'll regret is not having more time." Haley gripped his shirt tightly. "Don't go." He held her for a second longer, then stepped back. "I have to." Noah's message had been clear. 1 o'clock. Pier 42. No police. No lies. Ryan arrived 10 minutes early. The pier was quiet. Abandoned boats. Rusted containers, the kind of place forgotten by the city. Wind whipped across the water, carrying with it the smell of salt and something colder. He waited. Then, at 1:03, footsteps echoed. Noah emerged from between two shipping containers, dressed in black, calm, calculated. Ryan didn't move. "You came?" Noah said. "You made it hard to say no." Noah chuckled. "Still dry with the humor? I always liked that about you." "I never liked anything about you." "That's fair." They stood a few feet apart, the space between them charged with years of history. "Where's the file?" Noah asked. Ryan didn't answer. "Don't make me ask twice." Still, silence. Noah's jaw tightened. "I know what you're thinking," he said. "You're thinking you can stall. You're thinking someone's watching from a rooftop. But no one's coming, Ryan, because you don't trust anyone enough to send them." "You're wrong," Ryan replied. Noah raised an eyebrow. "Am I?" Ryan stepped forward once, slowly, deliberately. "You're afraid of one thing," he said. "The truth. That's why you killed Claire. That's why you buried your trail. She was going to destroy everything." "She was going to tell the truth," Ryan snapped. "And now, so will I." From a distance, the sound of a car door slammed. Both men turned. Haley stood there, flash drive in hand. Noah's face twisted in rage. "You brought her?" "I didn't bring her," Ryan said. "She followed me." Haley stepped forward, chin high. "If you want this, you'll have to take it from me." Noah reached into his coat. But before anything else could happen, gunshot. Noah stumbled. Then another shot, clean, precise, hit his shoulder. He collapsed. From the shadows, a figure emerged, a woman in black, headset in one ear. Ryan recognized her instantly. "Agent Lynn," she nodded. "We've had eyes on him for days." "You knew? You didn't think we'd let you walk into a trap alone." "Did you?" Ryan turned to Haley, stunned. She smiled faintly, breathless. "I sent the drive to an old contact of Tessa's this morning. She forwarded it to federal agents. They wanted more. I gave them everything." Ryan blinked. "You didn't disappear," she said. "Not like Claire. Not like you almost did." Noah groaned on the ground as agents swarmed in, cuffing him. Ryan walked over to Haley slowly, eyes never leaving hers. "You didn't trust me to finish it alone," he said. "No," she whispered, stepping into him. "I trusted us to finish it together." It had been 6 days. 6 days since the gunshots, since Noah was arrested, since the truth had finally been forced out into the light. The drive containing the Violet files had exposed more than Ryan ever intended: old contracts, buried lies, ghosts with government names and signature trails. The authorities took it from there, but not before Ryan stood in front of them, fully owning his part. Haley never left his side. Now the world was quiet again. Or maybe they were just learning to hear it differently. She sat on the fire escape of her old apartment, legs tucked beneath her, a cup of tea in her hands. It was strange how fast the body remembers the small comforts, how pain doesn't always announce its departure. It just fades, piece by piece, until breathing feels normal again. Behind her, the window creaked open. Ryan stepped out, holding a plate with 2 buttered croissants and a napkin. "I come bearing peace offerings," he said, crouching beside her. Haley smiled. "If peace tastes like flaky pastry, I'm in." He handed her one, and they sat there in silence, watching the city. The morning breeze brushed her face, soft and cool. The chaos that had once consumed her felt distant now, like someone else's nightmare. "You know what I keep thinking about?" she said softly. Ryan glanced at her. That night, the call. If my finger hadn't slipped, I'd have woken up alone, cried into a pillow, maybe blocked Evan's number and just survived. And now? I'm not just surviving. Ryan's expression softened. "I still don't know if it was fate," she continued, "but I do know that I wasn't meant to go through that night alone." He looked out at the skyline. Me neither. A long pause passed between them, filled with the kind of quiet that doesn't need to be fixed. Then Haley asked, "What happens now?" Ryan took a slow breath. "Well, I gave the board my resignation." She turned sharply. "What?" "I'm stepping down from Carrington Tech." "Ryan, that company is your life." "No," he said, eyes steady. "It was my shield, my excuse. The thing I threw myself into, so I didn't have to face what I was really running from." Haley blinked. "And what was that?" He smiled faintly. "Being known, being seen." She looked down at her cup. "And now?" He reached over, gently taking her hand. "Now I'm ready to live. Not just manage, not just protect, but live." Her heart did something warm and slow in her chest. "I don't know where I'm going yet," he added, "but I know who I want beside me." Haley smiled, tears brimming. "You're still kind of a mystery, you know." "I'm working on that." They sat there for a while longer, sharing silence and pastry, letting the world settle. Later that afternoon, they visited Claire's memorial. It was a simple plaque near a small garden Ryan had helped fund anonymously. He hadn't returned since the day it was installed. This time, he brought flowers, white roses. Haley didn't ask questions. She just stood beside him while he laid them down, his hand lingering over her name, not because it was goodbye, but because he was finally allowing himself to remember without guilt. "Thank you," he whispered, "for everything you tried to do. I won't waste it." Haley watched him quietly, her fingers brushing against his. It wasn't about fixing the past. It was about honoring it and choosing not to let it define what came next. That evening, they returned to Haley's apartment. It was still mostly empty. No new furniture, no wedding decorations, just a space slowly returning to itself. She lit a candle. A soft lavender scent drifted into the room. "Do you miss it?" she asked suddenly. "Miss what?" "The quiet, the way your life used to be." He paused. "I miss believing that control was safety, but I don't miss the loneliness that came with it." She nodded. Then, without needing to plan it or explain it, Ryan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled something out. A tiny silver key. Haley stared at it. "What's that?" "It's to the cabin." She tilted her head. "Cabin?" "There's a place upstate. No Wi-Fi, no staff. Just air and trees and a lake that probably has too many frogs." She laughed. "I used to go there when I needed to disappear," he added. "Now I want to go there, to remember what life feels like. And I want you to come with me." Haley held the key between her fingers. "I can bring books." and I'll try not to burn breakfast." They both smiled. Then, slowly, she leaned in, this time not needing a goodbye, not fearing what might happen next, and kissed him, soft, long, certain, because this wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Later that night, as the city buzzed softly below and the stars blinked between clouds, Haley stood by her window, staring up at the sky. That night replayed in her mind like an echo, a missed call, a stranger's voice, the weight of a wedding that never happened. And then something else. Something better. Not perfect, not easy, but real. She glanced down at her phone, not to check for messages, but to finally delete the last one from Evan. It wasn't anger, it was peace. A soft letting go. As she climbed into bed beside Ryan, who was already half asleep, she whispered, "Thank you for answering." Eyes still closed, he whispered back, "Thank you for calling." The end. And now I want to hear from you. Have you ever made a wrong call that led to something unexpectedly beautiful? Share your moment, big or small, in the comments. Sometimes life's detours lead us exactly where we were